Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Youngju Ryu, and I'm the new director of the Nam Center for Korean Studies. But I'm an old member of the Nam Center for Korean Studies. I've been here forever, it feels like. We are in Michigan, and I would be remiss and utterly iconoclastic if I didn't begin any welcoming comments without reference to the weather. So, because I don't want to be iconoclastic, I will say we ordered some lovely sunshine for you and it arrived, but I'm afraid that it won't last. So we'll try to enjoy ourselves, at least a view of the beautiful weather outside, for as long as it lasts. Let me start. I won't talk very long, but let me start my remarks today by indulging in a bit of historical reflection and say that this is almost the 10th year of the Perspectives on Contemporary Korea conference. It was in 2012 that we held our very first conference. It was in the spring back then. And you know, Koreans have this saying that everybody knows, in 10 years, even the rivers and the mountains change. So to appreciate the degree of change that has occurred over the past 10 years that we've held this conference, we can kind of think back to the first topic of the first conference and say, if I tell you that it was Hallyu 2.0, then I think you can appreciate how much has changed. I think we're well into Hallyu 4.0 with the Squid Game. But, you know, so change is inevitable in a decade, but if you manage to stay in business, then you become a tradition and you become an institution. So Perspectives on Contemporary Korea Conference, I think, has become a tradition and an institution. And what we celebrate is bringing people together who do wonderful original scholarship and just fostering conversation. Sometimes these conversations lead to conference volumes. Sometimes they lead to just wonderful, wonderful further conversations. And this year, I think we're doing something very innovative and different, largely on account of the organizers who have that visionary creative gene. Professor Semio sitting back there, and Professor Francisco Sanin, whom you'll hear from shortly, of bringing scholars together with artists and activists. We haven't done that before, and we hope this will be beginning of more gatherings of this kind as we go forward. So I'm just really thrilled to have everyone here. I want to give a big shout out to the staff. I think we're doing a hybrid conference, is that right? And we haven't done one before, so this will be another first. And there was so much logistical preparation involved in setting this up. So Evan Val, who's sitting here, Kate Clem, over there by manning the computer, and of course Kelsey Langton, whom everyone has met. They've been working really, really tirelessly. So this will be first of the many shout outs to them, I'm sure, over the next 2 days. Real deep gratitude to Professor Sanin, who's flown in internationally in these COVID times to be here, who was part of the conversation all along. And of course, the lion's share of gratitude has to go to Professor Semio. This was her brainchild from the start, and it was held off because of the COVID pandemic. And we're so glad that we're able to, not everybody, but still bring a large number of you here in person to be able to have this event. Whatever she does, she brings a lot of beauty and grace and elegance too. And so I expect that this conference will be just in line with everything that she has done. So I think that's enough from me. Do we have another welcoming comment after mine? Okay. So I'll step off, and I look forward to just conversing with you and eating with you and listening to wonderful presentations for the next 2 days. So welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan Massey. I'm Dean at the Taubman College of Architecture and Urban Planning here at University of Michigan. I'm very sorry not to be with everybody on campus today, but you're catching me during some travel, and I'm grateful to the conference organizers for setting up the hybrid technology and format that will allow me and some of the other speakers to join remotely. So welcome to University of Michigan for those of you who are joining from other places and other institutions. It's a privilege to be able to help kick off this conference on reclaiming the city, because for an architectural historian or urban historian like me, the questions of ownership and power and practice of urbanism that are at the center of this event are profound, and we come back to them all the time. I'll tell you maybe one example of how my interest in this topic grew. Almost a decade ago, when Occupy Wall Street broke out in New York City and elsewhere, and activists set up a camp in Zuccotti Park in Lower Manhattan, I was fortunate enough to be on sabbatical, and I was able to spend a lot of time at the camp participating in Occupy Wall Street activities and really studying very closely the ways Occupy Wall Street claimed space and practiced its own micro-urbanism that had a distinctive interleaving of politics, poetics, and daily practices. I got to spend time at the camp, which was renamed Liberty Plaza, and come to understand in a kind of light ethnographic way some of the dynamics and activities of the camp, the modes of protest and attention claiming, the daily General Assembly that was the primary deliberative forum for Occupy Wall Street, low-tech devices like the human microphone, whereby the crowd would repeat the words of a speaker to amplify them across urban space. And I became particularly fascinated by the role of online forums and online media paralleling the work that was happening in person in Zuccotti Park. And so the Occupy Wall Street folks were using listservs and chat rooms, and also Twitter, which was still relatively new at that time, to coordinate and to hold parallel conversations in virtual and digital spaces that interleaved with those they were having in urban space in person. I became quite interested, especially in the way locative media or geolocated media started to play a role in the organizing of Occupy Wall Street. There was at that time, new technology called crowd mapping that allowed participants to share location-based information with one another by posting, sometimes through Twitter, sometimes through other mechanisms, to crowd maps that provided real-time dynamic information on what was happening across Lower Manhattan and across global geographies, as this group of organizers dialogued with their counterparts in the Puerta del Sol in Madrid, or from Syntagma Square in Athens, from Tahrir Square, from the Umbrella Movement. Of course, I'm talking about a larger time span here, but a very interesting set of translocal affiliations started to emerge through these digital platforms that also were transmedia, in the sense that digital and virtual platforms were in dialogue, growing dialogue with what was happening in the physical spaces of our cities. Today, one of the big conversations about that interleaving between physical and digital space is around the tech sector's impact on buildings and cities, and on the ways we live in and practice those, practice place and practice social interaction. One of the ways people talk about this is platform urbanism, to describe the increasing production of urban life and urban space in ways that are based on digital platforms. Of course, ride hailing services like Uber and Lyft are some of the most visible examples of this, but it's a growing phenomenon that we participate when we use Airbnb or when we join WeWork or another co-working platform. I had the chance to participate this summer in the Venice Architecture Biennale, where the Austrian pavilion dedicated its space and its focus to this topic of platform urbanism, and it marks one of the most profound shifts in how we develop, shape, and occupy and use urban space. Most of us in this group, I'm sure, use tech tools and tech platforms in our everyday lives, in our work. They're a growing part of governance. They are new and evolving fast. So that this is a place where the questions of ownership, production, and right to the city that Semi O and Francisco Sanin have focused us on for today and tomorrow, these questions manifest with particular intensity in the domain of urban technology. And one example that I just learned about recently, some of the Occupy Wall Street participants went ahead to create new digital tools to facilitate crowd deliberation. One of them is called Polis, and apparently it was used in Taiwan a couple of years ago to help mediate a series of intense negotiations about how ride-sharing companies would intersect with the existing taxi industry. And so I know that the legacy of Occupy Wall Street carries forward in certain ways, even as data capitalist companies reshape urban space and practices at large scale. And I'm not an expert, but I know that Seoul and other Korean cities are among the most digitally intensive in the world. So I'm sure there's a lot going on in this domain in Korean society. So here at University of Michigan, in response to these developments, at Taubman College, we are launching in 2 months a new undergraduate degree in urban technology, a 4-year degree that educates students in architecture, urban planning, and urban design, integrally connected to data science and technology. And we will be drawing on design thinking methods, on strategy design, service design, and other skills to provide students with a focused set of capacities for engaging with the multidisciplinary questions of the city, encompassing the social science and the humanities, many of the topics that this conference is addressing. And we're quite excited to welcome our first group of students in January to start this new degree. In the meantime, today and tomorrow, those of us in Reclaiming the City will learn about a wide range of topics as they manifest in contemporary Korea: commoning and the politics of repair, JISA activism and space beam, spatial histories, and fading light. There's a beautiful intersection of politics and poetics that I think is going to teach us quite a bit. So congratulations to Semi O and my cherished colleague, Francisco Sanin from Syracuse University, on pulling together a broad range of compelling papers by scholars from many fields. Thank you.